welcome back. We start with the US, which has imposed fresh sanctions on Iran's construction sector. The US State Department says the curbs will also hit trade in four materials used for Tehran's military and nuclear programs. The US State Department spokesman, Mr. Morgan Ortagus, said the latest sanctions will help preserve oversight of Iran's civil nuclear program. Secretary of State Mike Pompeo said Tehran's construction sector is controlled by the Revolutionary Guard Corps. He said the sanctions will reduce proliferation risks and constrain Iran's ability to build a nuclear weapon. Moving on to Palestine, where Israel has approved the construction of over 2,000 illegal settlements in the occupied West Bank. Settlement watchdog Peace Now has revealed Tel Aviv took the decision on October 10th. Peace Now says the settlement construction has increased under Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. All settlements are considered illegal under international law and are a violation of the UN's two-state solution. Netanyahu is currently fighting for his political survival after failing to form a coalition government after elections in September. His pledge to annex the West Bank during election campaign received widespread condemnation and rejection. Syrian President Bashar al-Assad says the deal between Turkey and Russia helped reunite separatist Kurdish forces with Damascus. In a televised interview, Assad said the safe zone agreement is the first step towards a united Syria. Assad said the deal to drive out the Kurdish militia from a 30-kilometer safe zone will help Damascus achieve its goal. The president said the death of ISIS head Abu Bakr al-Baghdadi does not mean the end of terrorism in Syria.
As long as this ideology hasn't ended or retreated, it means that Baghdadi's death, or even the death of ISIS as a whole, won't have an effect on this extremist ideology.
Assad praised US President Trump for his decision to disengage from Syria, calling him the best American president. Assad explained Trump is not a good president because of his policies, but his transparency. In a related development, Turkey says it has freed 18 Syrian soldiers captured inside the proposed safe zone in northeastern Syria. The Turkish Defense Ministry says the decision to release was reached during talks with Russia. It said the Syrians were captured on Tuesday near the key border town of Ras al-Ain during reconnaissance. Turkish authorities say they investigated the soldiers' identities before letting them go to ensure they were not ISIS militants. President Tayyip Erdogan has repeatedly said Ankara will never allow Kurdish fighters to stay on the Syria-Turkey border. ISIS has pledged to avenge Abu Bakr al-Baghdadi's killing by the United States. In an audio message, the group's spokesman confirmed Baghdadi's death. ISIS has named Abu Ibrahim al-Hashimi al-Qureshi as their new leader. Al-Qureshi said the group's legislative and consultative body was convened after Baghdadi's death. Baghdadi was killed in a US raid on his compound in northwestern Syria last week. Al-Qureshi has also confirmed the death of the group's previous spokesman, Abu Hassan al-Muhajir, in a separate raid. The US has grounded its fleet of Chinese-made drones to conduct a review of the program. China's foreign ministry has hit back, calling the US move discriminatory. Interior Department spokesman Nick Goodwin said any UAVs made from Chinese components have been grounded. Goodwin gave no reasons for the decision, but it comes amid US security concerns over Chinese electronics. Over 800 aircraft have been grounded under the review program. Goodwin said exceptions would be made for drones being used for emergency purposes. He said the department will review any potential security risk the drones could pose. London has rebuked US President Donald Trump's criticism of its recently agreed Brexit deal. In an interview, Trump said the US cannot make a trade deal with the UK under Boris Johnson's EU withdrawal agreement. In a statement, the Prime Minister's office defended the deal, saying it is the perfect prelude to the UK's free trade agreements worldwide. But Trump also defended Johnson as the right man for these times, saying Jeremy Corbyn would be very bad for Britain. In response, Corbyn accused President Donald Trump of interfering in Britain's general elections to get his friend Boris Johnson elected. The election is scheduled for December 12. In Bolivia, political tensions have escalated after opposition leader Carlos Mesa rejected a third-party audit of election results. The election gave President Evo Morales a controversial fourth term. Mesa said no audit based on unilaterally agreed terms will be acceptable. He demanded the results be set aside and ballots be recounted from scratch by the Organization of American States mission. President Evo Morales has called for a truce, saying the 30-member mission of the international body is non-partisan. Post-election violence over disputed results left 2 people dead and 140 injured. After 3 venue changes, the UN's 25th Climate Change Summit now appears to be headed to Madrid, following Chile's withdrawal as host. Chile pulled out just a month before the event amid riots that have paralyzed the capital city of Santiago. In a statement, the UN said Spain's government has offered to host the crucial meeting. Prime Minister Pedro Sanchez says he will confirm a formal decision on Monday. Chilean President Sebastián Piñera said Madrid had offered to host the summit on the same schedule. The event will run between the 2nd and 13th of December and will focus on the implementation of the Paris Agreement. Spain's Prime Minister Pedro Sanchez says government will not allow Catalonia to seek online independence. This follows his efforts to control separatist groups and parties' activity on the internet.
In an interview, Sanchez said there would be no independence for Catalonia, either offline or online. The Spanish government has adopted a decree to oblige all public administrations to host their websites in the European Union. Separatist politicians have set up the online Catalan Republican Council, claiming to have 80,000 followers. Meanwhile, hundreds of students have blocked the streets in Barcelona, calling for Catalan independence. A large group of students marched through the streets to San Jaume Square outside the regional government headquarters.
In Chile, the death toll in the continuing anti-government protests has risen to 23. The Chilean prosecutor's office says 5 people have been killed in clashes with security forces while 2 died in custody. The Justice Ministry says more than 9,200 people have been arrested across the country. Demonstrators say they plan more protests on the weekend, demanding the resignation of President Sebastián Piñera. The protest started over new taxes imposed by Piñera's government. In the Philippines, 19 people have been killed after a truck plunged into a ravine in northern Apayao province. Police say 22 others have been wounded in the accident. They say most of the passengers were farmers. The vehicle fell backward down a hill into the 20-meter deep ravine. Wildfires are raging across the Pantanal tropical wetlands in southern Brazil. The government says the situation is critical and fires are bigger than anything seen before in the region. The authorities have announced a 30-day moratorium on using fire for land clearance. Raging wildfires have affected 125,000 acres of land. The National Risk Management Center says the fire was causing logistical difficulties due to poor visibility. Official figures show more than 167,000 forest fires ablaze this year, including the Amazon fires in August. Southern California is braving a 3rd day of new wind-driven fires as the blazes burn through the San Bernardino National Forest. Evacuation orders have been issued for nearly 500 homes, displacing about 1,300 residents. The San Bernardino County Fire Department said because of the blaze is still under investigation. National Weather Service handed out an extreme red flag warning in light of recurrence of Santa Ana winds, but weather agency said no further winds are predicted for at least the next week. The European Union has allocated an additional €600 million in financial aid to support refugees in Turkey. In a statement, it said the sum has been allocated under the Social Harmony Assistance Programme, supervised by the Red Crescent. The bloc says another €63 million have been allocated to fund basic services projects. These include education, health, food and infrastructure. The Social Harmony Assistance Programme gives €22 per month on Red Crescent cards to needy families living outside camps. At a Turkey-EU summit in 2015, the EU pledged a €3 billion fund for Syrians in Turkey. The ASEAN economic ministers have signed a protocol for an enhanced dispute settlement mechanism. It was signed at the 18th Economic Community Council meeting in the Thai province of Nonthaburi. The annual gathering was a preparation for the 35th ASEAN summit, which kicks off on Saturday. In addition to ASEAN members, representatives from Australia, China, India, Japan, Russia and South Korea also attended the meeting. In a joint statement, they said the region reported higher trade and foreign direct investments over the past year. It said that despite global trade tensions, the group remains resolute in its commitment to the region's economic integration. We'll take a quick short break here. We'll be right back. Pakistan's Prime Minister Imran Khan says nothing can deny Kashmiris their freedom from Indian occupation. Speaking in Gilgit, marking the region's Independence Day, Prime Minister Khan said India has played its last card by revoking Kashmir's special status. He said millions of Kashmiris have been confined to their homes by 900,000 Indian troops. The Prime Minister said New Delhi will witness a rejuvenated resolve for freedom in occupied Kashmir the day the lockdown is lifted. The Prime Minister said Gilgit-Baltistan's resilience against Dogra regime led to their liberation from Indian oppression. Over 1,000 Indian Sikh pilgrims have arrived in Pakistan to celebrate the 550th birthday of their founder of Sikhism. The pilgrims will visit Gurdwara Kartarpur in Narowal district, which is the birthplace of Baba Guru Nanak Dev. More details in this report.
In the first cultural exchange of its kind, a religious procession of Sikh pilgrims called Nagar Kirtan crossed the Wagah border. The procession ferry consists of specially crafted gold-plated palanquin that weighs 200 kilograms and carries Sikhism's religious texts. It will be placed at the birthplace of Baba Guru Nanak in Narowal district. Pakistan welcomes the Nagar Kirtan as a gesture of goodwill.
We will go to Nankana Sahib, Panja Sahib, Sacha Sauda and all the Gurdwaras, which will be open to visit. It is a wonderful feeling and an exciting moment. We are excited to go to Nankana Sahib.
Pakistan has made special arrangements to facilitate the Sikh pilgrims' stay in the country. Prime Minister Imran Khan will also inaugurate the Kartarpur corridor on the 9th of November. The project will establish a visa-free link between Darbar Sahib in Kartarpur and the Dera Baba Nanak's shrine in India's Punjab.
Pakistan has waived off the $20 processing fee for Sikh pilgrims coming through the Kartarpur corridor. Prime Minister Imran Khan says the step is a welcoming gesture for the pilgrims. The relief was extended to devotees visiting Pakistan for the celebration of the 550th birthday of Guru Nanak Dev. This one-time waiver will be for the day of inauguration and on Guru Nanak's birthday. Islamabad has also relaxed the conditions of carrying a passport for identification and prior registration for the visitors. The visiting Sikhs won't need a passport, just a valid ID, and they won't need to register 10 days in advance. In the Somali capital of Mogadishu, people are trying to rebuild their lives despite conflict and regular terrorist attacks. New businesses, like a floating bar and restaurant, are attempting to breathe life into a war-torn country and bolster the growth of tourism sector. The report has more details.
Young people play football on the beach in Mogadishu. Others meet with friends to sing and eat together in a park. Despite the ongoing conflict in the capital, Somalis are looking for quiet places to relax. Abdul Qadir Ibrahim fled the conflict to Italy in the 70s, but after 10 years abroad, he decided to return to the country to create his own business, a floating bar and restaurant.
When I saw in developed countries that there were boats with bars on tourist beaches, I thought it would be a great idea to create a floating restaurant here too.
Several restaurants have sprung up on Lido Beach since the Al-Shabaab terrorist group was driven out of the city by African Union soldiers in 2011. The beach, just one of the few public spaces in the city, has risen in popularity. But this has also made it a target for the Al-Shabaab militants who continue to hit the capital regularly. In 2016, an attack on a waterfront restaurant left 19 dead.
Mogadishu is a resilient city where buildings destroyed by suicide cars are quickly rebuilt, and the youth is afraid of nothing and lives in peace.
Despite tensions, many businesses are emerging in the Somali capital. The country is slowly trying to change its image, and it is making inroads. In recent years, many foreign airlines have started to offer flights to Somalia.
Australia's Qantas Airways has removed 3 of its Boeing 737NG planes after finding structural cracks. Domestic CEO Andrew David says these were discovered during earlier than required aircraft checks as part of a global issue with the model. The cracks are on what is known as the pickle fork, a part that attaches the plane's fuselage or body to the wing structure. The new difficulties compound the US plane maker's problems. It faces tumbling profits, federal scrutiny, and calls for its CEO to resign after deadly crashes involving the 737 MAX, the successor to the 737NG. In Iraq, the anti-government protesters in Baghdad have taken to social media platforms to reach the world. Protesters live stream from their camps to counter state media and tell their version of the story. More details in this report.
Throughout Tahrir Square, protesters can be seen filming on their phones to post on Facebook or Instagram. They share latest news on social media because many have stopped trusting conventional outlets.
I uploaded more than one post in English so that the people can see what's happening here at the exact time and date. Because governmental news authorities is always against the protests. They threatened to kill my mother if I didn't stop posting.
Many even live stream news from the sites challenging government bans on media outlets. Activists say they are also trying to keep the atmosphere convivial through social media.
We want to relay the image of life and messages of coexistence and peace that is found in hymns, slogans, food distributions, and peaceful messages in Tahrir Square.
Young people, making up to 60% of Iraq's 40 million people, are hardly represented in its political class but rule Tahrir Square, which is the focal point of protests that denounce corruption, unemployment, and call for the overthrow of the current political system.
And now for the business update. Stock markets across Europe are trading higher on the back of a surprise bounce in China's manufacturing activity. Investors were cautious earlier amid concerns about the progress in US-China trade talks due to conflicting tones. London's FTSE 100 index is trading over a fraction higher as Europe's basic resources stocks with a heavy exposure to China led the gains. The CAC 40 in Paris and Frankfurt's DAX index have also gained nearly 0.5%. In Asia, the Shanghai Composite closed nearly 1% higher after data showed Chinese manufacturing activity expanded more than expected in October. Hong Kong's Hang Seng picked up over 0.5% as shares of developer ESR Cayman jumped on its public debut. Seoul's Kospi also closed over 0.5% higher. And now for how the weather looks around the world. For the latest updates, you can follow us on social media at Indus.news.